Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He praises us as the best community ever sent to mankind. In a beautiful verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You are the best community ever raised for humanity. The best of all people are the Muslims. Think of all the generations that have passed since Adam alayhi salam. Generation after generation, the thousands of generations that have passed, we, the Muslims, are the best of all of them. But why is that the case? Allah continues in the verse and tells us why, where He says, تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You encourage that which is good and you forbid that which is evil and you believe in Allah. You are Muslims. Meaning here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that the very thing that makes you the best community ever sent to mankind is the fact that you call people to good, which is obviously Islam, because Islam is simply goodness, and you call people away from bad, which is again towards Islam, وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, and you are Muslims as well. So us being Muslims isn't enough to make us the best of people. Rather, it's the fact that we not only are Muslims, but we actually call people away from the bad and towards the good, i.e. towards Islam. And so this is the thing that sets us apart. Giving da'wah, advising people, calling people to goodness. Whenever we see something bad, we try and rectify that bad. This is the thing that makes us the best of the best. But sadly, what we find today is that in the name of calling people to goodness and giving people advice, sadly, we find chaos. We find that Muslims are incredibly harsh with each other and they're at each other's necks. They attack each other as if it's something that's perfectly normal, as if that is going to achieve some sort of goodness at the end of it. So think of family members. You might have certain siblings which don't pray and you're trying so hard to advise them to pray that you actually start insulting them or shouting at them. Or think of your friends when you start to get frustrated with them because you see them not being able to quit a specific sin, for example. And if you look online and offline even, there's a big war happening between men and women, even Muslim men and women. There's a big war happening between them. Men need to be men, women need to be women. It's chaos. And then you have the arguments that happen between schools of thoughts. My madhab is better. Your madhab is wrong. You are a person of bid'ah. You are a person of kufr. Problems everywhere. And you even have da'is attacking each other, subhanAllah. How terrible is that? You have du'at, people who are calling people to Islam, to this supposed goodness. Even they are at each other's necks nowadays. And especially when it comes to non-Muslims, we find that even da'is and people of knowledge who are supposed to be calling people to good, they even attack the non-Muslims as well. So all we see is attack, attack, attack. We see the most harsh kind of levels of giving advice. And this is what we think calling people to goodness is and what da'wah is. And to be honest with you, a quick test that you can do to see this chaos with your own eyes is to just open any video on Instagram or TikTok. Open any video on YouTube. Open any video on any social media, whether it's an Islamic video or a video that has a Muslim in it. Anything. If you open any video and then click on the comments section, you are going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Every single comment section, you always, pretty much 99.9% of the time, you have Muslims attacking Muslims. Put a hijab on, sister. You're gonna go to hell. You're a dayyuth. How dare you? I don't listen to people of bid'ah. Why do you not speak about such and such topic? You hypocrite. You this, you that. This is the extent of advice when it comes to the Muslims. And it is truly a catastrophe. It is an absolute catastrophe. And so the $1 million question is, does this method of advice ever lead to goodness? Really ask yourself that question. Do you really think advising people like that will lead people to leave the bad and go towards the good? Obviously, the answer is no. Absolutely not. It's only ever going to lead to division, to disunity, and ultimately division and disunity leads to a weakened people. And that's exactly what we're seeing today amongst the ummah. We are a weakened people. We don't have any strength. We're disunited. And that's because we're at each other's necks, I tell you. And so that's why there has never been a more important time for us to be trained properly on how to give da'wah and advise people upon the prophetic method. This class is one that you want to make notes on. It's one that you want to absorb. And it's one that you want to act upon, insha'Allah ta'ala, bi'ithnillah. First question I want to ask you. When we communicate with other people, Should we be calm and gentle or angry and harsh? The reason why I ask this question is so that we understand how we should approach people in general. This is a very important question. Should we ever be angry and harsh? Should we always be calm and gentle? This is what we're going to address here. The state of our communication, how we should communicate with other people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. It is out of Allah's mercy, O Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu. It is the mercy of Allah. And this is Allah speaking to the Prophet alayhi salatu, by the way, the greatest of all human beings. Allah speaking to the Prophet. And He's saying, it is out of my mercy, O Prophet, that you have been lenient with the people. Had you been harsh and cruel-hearted with the people, they would have run away from you. Really ponder over this. The Prophet ﷺ is being told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself that had you, O Prophet, who is carrying revelation from me, the objective truth, had you been harsh with the people, they would have run away from you and rejected the truth. So pardon them, forgive them, ask Allah to forgive them and consult them with their affairs, and that is how you should be with the people. So if we really deeply reflect on this, you'll realize that if Allah is telling the Prophet, who is the carrier of the truth, the best of all humanity, that had you been harsh with the people, they would have run away from you, how about me and you when we speak to people? How about when we interact with people and we want to be harsh with them and comment some things like you're a dayyuth, you're a person of bid'ah, etc.? Of course it's going to push people away, because the Prophet ﷺ himself would have pushed people away, you see? And so from that we learn that we must always be calm and gentle when we interact with people, you see? But then that begs the question, is there ever a time where we can be angry and harsh? Because sometimes when you interact with people, it can get a little bit difficult. Sometimes they frustrate you, sometimes they might insult you, right? So let's address that right now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَن يَرْتَدَّ مِنْكُمْ عَنْ دِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِي اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ فسوف يأتي الله بقوم يحبهم ويحبونه أذلة على المؤمنين أعزة على الكافرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O believers, whoever amongst you abandons their faith, leaves Islam, Allah is going to replace them with people who love Him and are loved by Him. What is their qualities, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? They are humble with the believers, but firm towards the disbelievers, and they struggle in the way of Allah, fearing no blame from anyone else. This is the quality of a believer that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, and that person loves Allah. What this verse shows us, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, أَذِلَّةٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَعِزَّةٍ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ, Allah is teaching you here that there is an etiquette when you speak to the believer, and there's an etiquette when you speak to the disbeliever. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into these separate categories and understand exactly how we should be speaking to the believers and exactly how we should be speaking to the disbelievers. You see? And so let's start with how we should be speaking with the believers.